Now, I can't lie, I'm pretty excited, I'm pretty damn optimistic, and it all comes off the back of finally our strategy coming into this season starting to bear some fruits and starting to get some traction finally underway. Recently we won All-Star Rare, of course, and won our biggest card of the season, Mo Salah, and that's knocked off a little sequence of events that's kind of just put the cherry on top of the cake, and then a firework candle, and maybe on a big giant pedestal as well, is now with, we're just about past the halfway point of the season, but with the group stage of all the European competitions coming to an end, this feels very much like the business end of the season, and really for so many different factors, it really couldn't be a better time to go on a bit of a road to glory, to go from the bottom all the way to the top and scoop some of the biggest cash prizes that we've not been getting access to so far this season. And we'll talk about it in the video, but for a few reasons, this just might be the optimal point to get into a strategy that's maybe been on the back burner. It's maybe been something that's been bubbling away quietly, it's just been kind of fun, or something that you've been kind of eyeing up from a distance and thinking, I could maybe just about make that work. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and get into the comment section in this one, guys, and let me know your thoughts and feelings on this road to glory we're about to embark on. What are any of the blind spots I've maybe got coming into this, as well as, just generally how things have worked out for you guys this season whenever you've taken on a new strategy or you've attacked a new, not even a new, but when you've went through this season compounding some wins in, how did you take advantage of that? Any things you wish you did, maybe you didn't, or things that you did that worked out well? Look forward to catching all that in the comment section as always, guys. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Because like I mentioned, and as you can probably see on screen right away, most of you will probably know this already, but we did win Mohamed Salah for finishing first in All-Star Rare in a proper Sorare throwback Celtic lineup, winning one of the top cards in Champion Euro. It's one of the biggest wins I've had on Sorare period, because it is a champ card that is firmly, like I keep saying about Mo Salah this season, he is firmly in Hall of Fame legacy mode at the moment. He has been absolutely incredible. I've traded him over to Pug, and if you don't know yet, I'll reveal shortly what I got for him. But in 2 game weeks, he's won Pug 2 rewards. He's ranked on 3 level ups to him straight away, boosted him up to level 20, and Pug's not listing this card. Pug must be either a Liverpool fan or a Mo Salah fan, and he's had 4 game weeks with him, a 50, 2 60s and a 70, a little bit of whatever. But this is a move that I did when I was on live with the members, and I just was just weighing up everything, his age, the links away, his contract status, etc. And I thought, like, all things being equal, if I could trade this Salah for anyone, who would it be based on my gallery, my football interests, and just players that I would like firmly put in that star category, a guy that I would love to own and to keep and to use in my Sorare gallery. And there was only one man that was going to be, and that was Rafinha, of course. Now, Rafinha, as you can see from the back of the card here, 3 game weeks, 3 rewards. What a debut to life at FC Barcelona he's had, and we'll get into a little bit of that in a second. But Rafinha, I made a lovely little short about him earlier this season as well. Hugely impressed by him on the pitch, off the pitch, and everything else in between, man. For me, he's just the guy now for me in so many ways. I did say at the beginning of the season as well how iconic I felt this Barca kit was going to be. And let's see how well Barca do in Europe and maybe some other places, but I might see myself into one of these now. And the reason as well, like, I've won star cards before. I've won cards that have got L15 or 7. I've won these kind of cards before. But generally speaking, they're not like the genuine world-class talent. Sometimes they're just cheat code Sorare cards. And I've always been happy and quite quick to sell those guys or trade them and do different bits and pieces with them. Like cashing in essentially. But this is my 5th season on Sorare, and through all the kind of changes and alterations I've had, on the game, the need to go and change my gallery and move through the marketplace and use my wallet to make the squad better, as well as real life stuff, having a studio and all the other stuff that kind of goes into work and all the rest of it in life, because everything we do on this channel, this is this is what we do here. But I'm quite comfortable in the stage now where this season, because I've kind of laid my cards out the way I want to, I can very easily now enjoy and bank in a big win like this, and then really just make sure that I can enhance it the best way possible. Now, as a lot of you guys will know, I watch a lot of La Liga. It's a league that I just always end up finding myself gravitating towards and watching the matches. And this season, I'd slowly been buying a bit of an in-season La Liga team already. I'd been buying that kind of second layer of the Sociedad collection to complement the classic cards that I had for last season. And then after crafting an Enzo Baranachea, which was a player that I was actually quite impressed with in Italy last year, thought I might hung around a bit longer at Aston Villa this year, I was quite happy with that. That felt like it gave me a bit of an in to Valencia, and I felt there was a lot of real good value for Valencia cards where they were at that point in time. They're still not exactly in a great position, but as you can see with Diego Lopez here, who I got for under £8, he's delivered some decisive actions for me, and he's been a pretty nippy wee card, a guy that I'm, again, a bit of a fan of. But, under £8 for a starting forward, same under a fiver for a mid. And then, yeah, some of the cards are a little bit more expensive when you get to the likes of Pepelu especially, and Dimitrevski, that was a backup keeper that was going to come in for some utility. What I've ended up with at this stage here, quietly in the background throughout like the winter months of the La Liga season, is a little underbelly of depth. No one here is particularly amazing, but the way the fixtures go and for how much La Liga I watch, particularly of these two teams, like I normally have got a good idea that, hey, Diego Lopez is actually going to be a good shout against Espanyol or Alaves, maybe not Real Madrid, etc. But what every strategy needs to get going is that captain capable guy, that Rafinha level player, and that could be anyone in any league you care to think about, in any region that you care to think about across Sorare. But you need a guy that you can put the captain's armband on that is going to bring in an 80 plus if you're going to think about winning divisions, being at the very tippy top. And then it's about making sure that supporting cast is capable of, like putting the pedestal on them, making sure those cherries on top of the cake with the firework cracker candle coming out the top of it, everything can be the best that it can be all together. And right before the Rafinha Salah thing had happened, I'd got a Sergio Gomez in. Now, Sergio Gomez has actually been not easy on the eye this year. He's helped me win a couple of boxes, I suppose, in a couple of the game weeks that he's played for me. But he's been sensationally overpriced for so long, so he's not been doing that good. And if you watch him, he isn't doing that good either. But we finally managed to get him at a decent price off the secondary market, so I was quite happy to bring him in. A nice neon edition one as well. And he, as well as a few of the other guys that are already in that kind of underbelly, really should be doing better than what they are. And, when the fixture list cleans up a little bit, particularly for Real Sociedad, not really an issue for Valencia, of course, I'm expecting some of these better scores to come back, and the frequency of them to be a bit more, let's say, predictable. But one of the main problems in La Liga, and again, every league has its own little thing that it's got going on, but one of the problems in La Liga is there's not that many boss reliable defenders. But one of the guys that I think most people would hold out and recognise as a relatively good safe bet is Nayef Aguerd, who is the last player that I essentially wanted and needed in this Sociedad collection, and I managed to get him right off the back of bringing Rafinha in on a trade. And this was actually pretty fun because a few of these cards had fallen into some pretty bad positions, but I bought two in-season Asan Diaws on the news that he was going to go to Como, or on the speculation he was going to go to Como, and he debuted, he got a decisive, and then there was some secondary market movement off the back of that, which was lovely for me because that meant that, after this goal against AC Milan, his trade value became significantly different very quickly, and this Asan Dial that cost me very little helped me with some other fodder that had got injured and transferred and whatever into a Nayef Aguerd, potentially top 5 defender card in La Liga. And I might be underplaying the Valencia Sociedad stuff a little bit, right, because I really do feel that the way Sorare is at the moment, for your priority team, for your number one lineup, for positions especially like defence and midfield, you need to have variety, you need to have lots of options available just in case you do get news that takes somebody out of the equation, you're not just left totally high and dry. And sometimes you need just those kind of wild cards that can just pop off and all the rest of it. And I've been waiting for an excuse to bring Oscar Rodriguez back into the squad. Now, he's been kind of in and out with suspension and kind of just looking now to get back into the team afterwards, but this is a guy that's done well before. He cost a fiver before market credits. I remember this costing me under £3 certainly, and that was just a little bit of fun to add in. But make no mistake about it, for me, you do need to have that underbelly of random depth of guys that can score well, and in most cases are somewhat reliable. They are starters, they play for their team most of the time, and if you can find just a random squad that, hey, this midfielder that takes set pieces or makes all the interceptions, guys like Hugo Duro that are going to score the couple of goals, whatever it might be, because that's a moving target in all the game weeks all the time. And yeah, you can always dip into the market and go and buy players, especially when you find them really cheap and if you can plan ahead, etc. But not everyone can be that agile, that active in the market, and it does make sense to, if you want to have involvement in that, to maybe select, choose your horses in advance kind of thing. And the way I've done that in this is like with Valencia and with Real Sociedad. Because when I look at La Liga, for example, and this is always good analysis to do, I just can't see Valencia finishing second bottom. And they've just changed manager recently, which does change the makeup of everything, hopefully for the better. But I just can't see them. They've only won 3 matches this season. They've got a pretty decent squad, and it's just been an absolute shambles. I've not watched them for a lot of these losses, but I've been watching them recently and throughout this L5, and I've certainly got enough reason to believe that they're going to get out of this relegation scrap. And if that happens, they've got to get to 10 wins or something like that. So if they're going to win 10 matches, the players are going to be involved in decisive actions, and will probably do quite okay. The rest of the league table is actually pretty tight, and a lot of the teams that I follow and watch more so have been pretty disappointing and lacklustre, it must be said. But with Girona and Sociedad in particular, they're not really handling this very well, Girona especially, so that's a conversation for another day perhaps, because that's super rares. But with Real Sociedad, they've got a really good squad, a really big squad, and they've just, for the last year and a half, they've just not managed it well. They're not excelling, they're not getting any better. But again, at the moment, they've only scored 17 goals this season. I can't see that staying that low. They've got to have a bit of a breakthrough moment, I feel. At 8 wins, they're doing quite okay. 9 losses is obviously pretty terrible. At point of recording, they've just dropped points to Getafe, and quite an embarrassing one. And hopefully there's a bit of pressure now on the manager, because he's been getting away with Moida. But again, same sort of principle. They're 9th at the moment with 8 wins. I expect them to do well enough to get to, kind of close, maybe not all the way to 20 wins, but, 16 or something like that. And again, if Sociedad are going to score more goals, they're going to be involved in that amount of wins. That's a nice kind of thing to be involved in. You can always back the top teams, of course, because they're going to go and try and win the league and all the rest of it. But now that a lot of the league has went by, you can kind of see what's been affecting some teams, or you can see what players have been doing well, especially, or who's actually featuring in the first team plans. And like I mentioned in the intro to the video, this kind of might be the perfect time to do something like this for a few reasons, right? Now, it feels like we're at that sweet spot at the moment. We're about to end, once we end the January window, and once we earned the group stage of the European competitions, for me, that's the final that's the halfway point of the season. Now, I know on the matches played and all the rest of it, that really won't be the case, but transfers will happen. There's a little bit of that force majeure kind of going around now, with random guys DNPing or guys' situations changing. And there's a huge fixture pile up for all the better teams in European football at the moment. And that's all going to stop. The transfer stuff will stop until May again. And the fixture pile up is going to die down, because all the domestic cups are kind of at the sharp end as well. So it's not going to be like last 32s and quarterfinals, that sort of thing. It's more like semi-finals. Maybe there's some quarterfinals, of course, to go through. But if we have a look at the auctions at the moment, there is no rares available for sale, and this has been something that's been apparent and been there for a little while on Sorare. Now, limiteds are still quite abundant, they're still quite easy to get a hold of, but particularly at rare, if you were wanting to build a strategy, or you're wanting to kickstart something, like with that Rafinha win has done me. Imagine you went out and you won a Salah, and you could swap it and trade it for a real marquee card that would make a big difference to your gallery. What would you then go and try and enhance and put around it, like I was just mentioning there with some of the cards that I've done that with? And if you come up with a list and then you go to auctions, none of them are available. If you go to Instant Buy, now Instant Buy does have good availability, and we'll just stick with the La Liga example just because that's what I was looking at before. But if you look at La Liga and we sort by highest price, there's not that many. Even if you had a huge wallet, there's no Bellingham here, there's no Mbappe, etc, etc. You have to actually really look at who's here and then weigh up utility, viability, etc, etc, if you want to get first owner, if you want to use market credits. And it's kind of it's a funny market at the moment. We've had some celebration cards come out, maybe some more of them, or some more addition of cards has kind of been slowly kind of drip fed out towards the back end of the season here. And of course you can go to manager sales where you can't use market credits, where you don't get the same benefit to collection bonus or whatever, and then you're in a different situation in terms of negotiation, price, supply, demand, etc, etc. So I think I've just about assembled this squad almost at the right time. So I think if later on this year, let's look at the La Liga table again. There's essentially 17 games left to go, isn't there? Which isn't too bad. It's just past the halfway point. And I have been playing La Liga in season for the last couple of weeks. I've not actually got out of Division 4, truth be told, but I've caught a wee box or two here or there. But for all intents and purposes, we could just say, I'm kind of starting at halfway through the league, or less than that. And what I want to track is on this road to glory is starting from Division 4, how much money can we win with this team that is really assembled on the cheap. Now, before we look at the entire roster and how much it's cost and what I'm kind of using and all the rest of it, I have made one more addition. In-season goalkeepers, especially on instant buy, it's probably one of the few commodities I think you can kind of still find if you're looking to, just kick a strategy on, get something going, whatever it is we're kind of saying here. Go on your own road to glory. And with the market credits I won from the Best of Europe competition, and with the $30 that Rafinha won me, I went into instant buying Luis Jr. here, or Junior R. I don't know why it says that on his card. And this is a goalkeeper I was really excited about, really missed the boat on early doors, and did go for a little bit more early season. I think people have kind of clicked on to he's not going to be under 23 next year, and he did have a spell out of the team, having transferred over. I think people thought he was going to come straight in, so it feels like I bought him at a nice time. I didn't get to use him sadly against Atletico Madrid when he brought in a 62 and a 1-1 draw, which is just fantastic. And he's a Brazilian goalkeeper as well. Big fan of this guy, and I think he could do really well. Also, Rafa Marin, who I picked up a while ago, he looks to be transferring to Villarreal, so I might have a little accidental goalkeeper-defender play there. But by finally adding in an in-season goalkeeper into that La Liga build, I've got my captain, Rafinha. I've got my goalkeeper, Luis Jr. I've got a backup keeper or two as well kind of floating about. We don't really need to think about them or factor them in, if you like, for now. I've got a handful of defenders. I've got a handful of midfielders. And then I've got another couple of forwards lying around. All I'm expecting all of this to amount to is one best 5 to go out. Now, if I get 2 lineups out, fantastic. Now, because I've got all the bases covered here for the most part positionally, maybe another goalkeeper would be nice, right? But it's certainly not a necessity for starting out. It's certainly not something that I need to really worry myself with, especially with having 2 backups still in there that could just luck box their way in there. Is now it comes down to the classic quality. Now in Classic La Liga this year, I've done pretty well, and this is kind of what I was meaning in the beginning of the intro of like my strategy kind of really paying fruits, because I wanted to win in-season cards for the most part through the classic collections that I had, but I still had a lot of housekeeping to do. Still had a lot of cards to kind of move around, acquire, etc, etc. But looking at my classic strategy for La Liga, like I've got 2 goalkeepers in here from an old collection, 2 midfielders that are kind of met as well. Maybe one player is usable from that 2020 selection, 2021. This is the key piece here, Dani Olmo, because if he gets back into the Barca team, back fit and registered and all the rest of it, he is like a key classic card that makes a big difference to that overall play, because he synergizes well, of course, with Rafinha. And then in the 2023 selection, I've got Nicolas Pepe and then the Sociedad kind of spine here. So between all of this, all I'm after is having one viable team that can be really competitive. And I think across all the kind of bases that I've got covered here, I can certainly hope and expect to do much, much better than what we finished out with this game week. At point of recording, Barca v Valencia hasn't kicked off yet, but I've just witnessed the car crash that was Getafe beating Sociedad by 3-0, and Jesus, was that a hard watch. But going forward, we'll have a different goalkeeper choice as well, and then we can be a lot more flexible with the other picks as well, because I would have definitely, had I had Luis Jr. in this team, I had a different classic choice, and with Rafinha still to play, maybe we could have got promoted and out of Division 4 on this one. And Division 4 Rare isn't a bad division to be trying to win with the sort of cards that we've got here and the sort of ambition level we've got in the strategy. But we're certainly going to run through the divisions where I expect to get promoted. Division 3 isn't too shabby either, by the way. But the main thing that we're hoping to do with this strategy, and hopefully get maybe 1 or 2 more cards that can really just push the top end scores potentially, if the underbelly players don't start to deliver, don't start to pick up as we no doubt get through Division 4, Division 3. Because when we get to Division 1, this is a prize pool that is super exciting to be in and amongst for the next, really, we want to have at least 10 game weeks up there. We've got about 17 left of the season, so I think that's quite a conservative estimate here. So every game week we can play in here over 10 for me is a Brucey bonus. And with the change to the division structure that we know Sorare are going to be putting out once we have the winter gameplay update take full effect, roughly the top 25% of players in each region will populate D1. So it's about really having a squad that should be in the top 25% overall, and then within that top cross section, that cohort, of course, you're just not looking to fall into that bottom, what is it, 30% go down? Yikes. So we need guys that play all the time, because that's the number one reason for relegation is DNPing. And having all the in-seasons covered, having a great variety as well of classic cards. And the thing with the classic cards that I think can maybe be undervalued in this prospect is is the amount of XP that they've got now. In-season cards, of course, can get a glorious amount of XP, especially at this stage of the season. Some long-term holders will have some big swinging cards. But having classic cards that are stronger or even just around par with what's going on in the marketplace, already just kind of sitting in the background and can be called upon if and when required, is a great lever of strength. And for some of you guys that might be in season only, that is something that you will want to have up your sleeve in Classic next year with any legacy cards you do hang on to. Now, we've got Champions League and Europa League and everything else still to go, but the first time we'll get to run this team out will be for game week 50, which should be pretty exciting. And looking at the fixtures, I'm actually not too not too pessimistic about it. With Villarreal at home to Valladolid, don't really have anything to worry about in defence. Can kind of wait closer to the time and just see the projected lineups, who's expected to play and whatnot. If I look at Dani Olmo, I don't know if he'll be back, but that if he is, Alaves at home is a great return match for him. But if we flip that on to in-season, we can see, yeah, Sociedad away to Osasuna and Valencia at home to Celta. So again, not terrible fixtures, but certainly ones we can work with, especially in Division 4. And then, yeah, Rafinha at home to Alaves as captain. That should just be an absolute song, shouldn't it? As well as maybe the likes of Hugo Duro or Diego Lopez could be really good kicker cards at home to Valencia. So I'm pretty optimistic overall that our first week running with a full strategy now, because I think that that's what it is now. It's fully complete to run and go on a road to glory from Division 4 to Division 1. Now, every Wednesday on the channel, I've been doing a Sorare scouting season where we look at all the transfers that have happened in the January window over the last 7 days. And the reason we do that on a Wednesday is because earlier those days on a Wednesday, Sorare release kind of like transfer update release cards or kind of new faces, depending on how you want to think of it. And they always come out and they always auction as well those rares, especially if it's somebody that's never had a card before. So I'm still happy to be poised and ready to kind of spring into action for any news that might come my way, because we've taken a few swings in this transfer window, and I'm pleased to say it feels like we've had 2 good hits already. James Rodriguez, 2 games, 2 decisives. The first one's maybe a wee bit fluky, but the second one where he plays 80 minutes in the match, isn't that glorious? Bringing in an 80-pointer just with the 1 decisive. James in the building, and Martinez Quatra moving back to River Plate and being the Titan elite that he is. 13 duels won, only 2 lost, 3 interceptions, a tackle. The guy is a man mountain. So buoyed by the success we've had as some of those transfers, we've actually got some other irons in the fire. Maybe Rafa Marin, like we mentioned earlier, maybe he makes a move. And I've taken some of that confirmation bias and I went back into the January window and I've reinforced not just Classic but in season all across the board for the main regions and the main strategies that I've been really trying to run with this year, in terms of Champion Euro as an overarching thing for the main legacy collections that I've got in play, dovetailing with some nice transfers, as well as all the Contender, the Celtic in-season stuff. But for me, La Liga in-season is going to be that one road that we're going to blaze of glory. You know, going into that in-season with a brand new set of cards that I've been slowly trying to build on a budget this season, and then off the back of quite a good win with some nice Classic cards in a specialist environment, really trying to elevate that now. And let's go from D4, let's go from the bottom all the way to the top of Division 1. The squad is pretty much assembled, but hey, if we need some more January transfers to help us along the way, I'm definitely up for it. And let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section down below. Of course, on screen and now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Stay out of trouble, and I will catch you on the next one.